Welcome everybody to the techrug podcast. Today I got two special guests with me, Michael Secrist, our VP at techrug, and Shawn Furman, CEO of STF Consulting. Shawn, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Wilbur?
Good. Well, I appreciate you hopping on, joining us today. If you would like to tell us a little bit about your business and what you do.
Sure. We are an IT managed services provider, and we're located in central New Jersey, Monmouth County. I started the business in 2000, so this is our 25th year doing this. In the past 25 years, we have seen a lot of different things, and we've seen a lot of technology evolve. And the last couple of years have been especially interesting on the security front, and with Gen AI coming into the scene. So I'm excited to talk to you guys about some of the things that we're seeing in our existing clients, and some of the things that we're seeing in clients that we are um, potentially looking to take on, and all the different types of um, security issues that do come up when we look at those clients to onboard them.
Perfect. Well, Shawn, I appreciate you telling us a little bit about yourself. Let's get things kicked off. And we see a lot from the insurance aspect and, from the insurance industry. What issues and what problems are you seeing in the technical space?
In the clients that we are, looking to onboard, I think the number one reason that people look, I mean, at this point, everybody has a provider. It's extremely rare for us to find someone or some entity that doesn't have a managed services provider, some type of tech provider that's working with them. The number one reason that people, start to look elsewhere, is when they start to incur turbulence around poor service quality. And I guess security issues would be another reason. And maybe cost overruns, like when things start to get out of hand, like when the costs keep increasing and there's no, I mean, the whole point of working with a tech provider like us or an MSP is really to try to help keep costs as flat as possible. Assuming that obviously that the scope of work isn't changing dramatically. But like I like to think, we're like a boutique type provider. I work with a really specific type of client, it's like much more intimate, and we're able to really white glove things in a way that a lot of other companies couldn't do. So I think that when I go to talk to prospective clients, it's really about um, I feel very comfortable after doing this for 25 years and telling people that, if you come to work with us, we will be your final stop. Like, you won't have to go anywhere else after us, because that is the level of commitment that we put forth when we do decide to bring somebody into our, I guess we would call it, your portfolio of clients. Just like TechRug has a very specific type of client they like to work with, and they have, there's requirements around that, and they want to make sure the right controls are in place to protect everybody's shared interests. It's the same thing. Like, I want to work with clients that above anything, I feel comfortable with, like, not just technically, but like on a personal level. When you do this for a long time, the technology becomes kind of like secondary. And like, when you talk to new prospective clients, you really want to feel comfortable working with them as a human before you even touch their technology, because my team, we can fix any technical problem, no matter how broken the network is, no matter how broken the entire thing could be a disaster zone. And we're totally comfortable with that, as long as the people that we're working with, like, we can have a good working relationship with them and partner with them, and feel respected, as a vendor partner. Because that's like the most difficult thing, and is when you work with clients that do not appreciate what you do for them, or they do not understand your value proposition, or they become kind of complacent, and they just think that the level of service, like, we have like response times that are under 5 minutes, and like, people sometimes forget how like, it's rare to see that in this day and age with any service organization. So you really have to work hard to highlight those things, and make sure people understand what makes you unique and special.
Definitely. I think it's that white glove service that you're really differentiating yourself, right? That you're establishing a relationship that goes beyond business, and I think that's been lost, in both the MSP and the technical side of what you do, and the insurance side, and really the world. That's a bigger problem, but you've got to have this is people's livelihood, and if you don't take it seriously from your side, and even on our side on the insurance, it can be catastrophic to businesses. Not a lot of businesses have the $600,000 it might be a ransom, or whatever they need to continue to operate.
Well, I think that, that's really one of the most important things is when we go into new clients, the biggest thing I'm trying to portray is that we are sharing your risk. And, it's about we want to make sure that we're holding them accountable. Like, so if you want an accountability partner, you want someone to hold you to a certain tier and standards, like that's what we specialize in, because I can't afford, like, if I have different clients at different levels of, I guess, IT security readiness, then it actually, it jeopardizes all of our clients, because then it takes away from our focus. Like, if one of our clients has an incident that we could have prevented with the right security framework in place, you really have to be. I mean, I would consider myself, like, I'm a young guy, but like, in the grand scheme of things, the way I approach business and the way that I approach our client relationships is, I guess, that you would define it as like old school, in a world where everything is becoming self-service, and everything is being designed so you can do it yourself. I think there's a real market for the type of service we provide, the type of accessibility that we provide. Like, if one of our clients is struggling, they can call me. Like, how many times can you call the CEO of, like, your, or the person who runs the company, like, on their cell phone, if you're not happy with the way that you're not happy or not comfortable? Like, I always encourage people, I'm like, listen, if there's something you don't like, or you don't feel comfortable, or you're uneasy about something, do not hesitate to reach out to me. And it's very rare that that will happen. But the fact that people, that I'm capable of being able to tell people, like, that, if you're not, that I am that accessible, it does mean something. And hey, listen, my mortgage depends on things going well here. So, it's like I couldn't be more incentivized to make sure that, things go well. And our business model doesn't work if we're churning through clients. Like, our average client relationship now is 15 years. So we've done a really good job at the clients that we service. Like, we hang on to them. We don't lose clients because of things that we can really, that are within our control. And so many service businesses, it doesn't matter what industry at this point, I think they lose business because of things that are very simple. Like, it's just understanding clients' pain, and like the lack of empathy, accessibility, service standards, and quality. Like, these are, a lot of it's just kind of common sense, but everyone's chasing, I guess, numbers and growth percentages and revenue. And like, I built this business from, like, from nothing, and I always built it with a focus on quality, not quantity, and service excellence. And listen, like, it's not a huge business, but it's a really, what I would consider very successful and very niche, approach, and it works very well. And I know, and as a business owner, I know my boundaries. Like, I know what I'm comfortable with personally. I'm never going to be a 100-person company, but I'm gonna have a good work life balance the best I can, and my team is gonna be able to, have a good work life balance also. And and I think that's why we've been able to hang on to our clients and hang on to our, and my staff also. I have a really good tenure with my team, because all the things that I'm talking to you guys about right now, they subscribed to those same ideologies also. They like the concept of, taking things, like, slow and steady wins the race concept. And I, every year I say the same thing. I'm like, okay, guys, here's how I feel about this. And, like, are we still subscribed to this? Like, okay, good. And it's like, that it feels good. I mean, I even after 25 years, I still get super excited about being able to keep doing this. And like now you have all these amazing Gen AI tools that we can do things that were like literally unfathomable, like even a year ago, like some of the things that we could do today. They just simply would not have been possible without those technologies.
You mentioned something that we find applicable in our industry, and I would imagine a lot of other industries, is quality, not quantity. Having the right type of client that understands and values what you do from your world is very important, and ours as well. In the insurance, that if you're taking out, the right securities and controls, everybody asks me, what do I need? What's the minimums to get insurance, right? What do I need to do? That we have to look beyond just the minimum, right? We've got to look at what are we doing to prevent, how are we as an insurance company making sure that nobody can ever tell you that 100% of everything is covered. But if we can be at 99% or even 95%, that's still really, really good. So if you have things like multi-factor security awareness training, at some point, endpoint detection and response tools, EDR, MDR, those different services that are basic anymore, you're going to be able to be in that high tier, high quality client because you understand what your risk is from the IT side that you're talking about, Shawn. And then on the insurance side, I know that when we underwrite that risk, that hey, you have the right controls in place. It's a two-way street. So would you say you deal with a lot of that in the initial onboarding, that you do a lot of your vetting with a client that is, okay, you're listening to my recommendations, we're taking out certain services that you need, we're not doing, there's a lot out there that I could sell you, right? But you have the right securities and controls for your organization. Do you seem to figure that out in the initial onboarding process? Is that more down the line, you adapt year to year?
Well, so what's nice is that when you're like when you're smaller, like we are, when I only onboard like 2 to 3 clients a year at the most. So I'm not like onboarding 2 a month or 3 a month. Like, so I look for really specific clients that want they want that upper echelon of layered defense, and then they understand that they need that. Most of the clients that we go into, we don't have different tiers of service in like a bronze, silver, or gold. Like it's like we have one offering, and in that offering, it's we include everything. So we have like 24/7 SOC in it. We have all of the latest technologies you'd want to see from a layered defense perspective. All the things that you would. I mean, I would say we have over 90% of the things that insurance companies want to see on the checklist. So right off the bat in our initial offering, we try to cover as much as we can so that we're reducing our risk as much as we can. It makes it harder when other people you might be going up against people competitively, and they're not, like, because when you're pitching business owners, they don't always understand all these different technologies, and it can be really tricky. And there is a difference between you do get what you pay for, and you do. But some people, like, may say, oh, well, I don't know that I need a 24/7 SOC, or I don't know that I need backup for Office 365, or I don't know if I need a 3-tier approach to spam filtering, or it's like. But these are all things that we didn't. A lot of the things that we do today, we didn't learn it the easy way. Like, so I can tell you right now, like, when you do this for a long time, you see some things. And I mean, you really have to have a a really in-depth, layered approach. They call it the Swiss cheese model. So like, you don't want, like, you want to have as many different layers so that the holes in the Swiss cheese, when the problem comes through, you want to make sure you get it on one of those layers of the Swiss cheese, and not all the cheese layer, all those circles in the Swiss cheese line up. And that's a common concept. And you really, it's like you have to have as many layers as you can that maybe in some cases come from different vendors. So you have different perspectives. So like you might use, for example, like we use at Sentinel-1 S1 on the endpoint protection side, but then we use Blackpoint Systems. for our 24/7 SOC solution. And where we could buy all that from S1 if we wanted to. Like, they could buy a bundled SKU and they could do that all. But when you have two different vendors' perspectives, it's very powerful. So I try to look for solutions where I'm using different vendors to get different perspectives, just so that if you miss it with one thing, you might get it on another thing. Like, when you look at, like, for example, like in Office 365, like suspicious logins, that's a big issue right now: credential theft, token theft. Like, so we use three different perspectives to review the logins. So we've got, risky sign-ins in Office 365 and all the really cool things that come with Azure, Entropy 2. We've got conditional access set up, and then we use Barracuda for their impersonation protection. So they look at the logs also. And then we use Blackpoint Systems to look at the logs also. And because the logs, whoever gets to it first, sometimes one will miss it, another one will get it. And sometimes one will get it before the other one, depending on who's looking at the logs first. But when you have a threat actor steal someone's two-factor token, and they log into someone's account, you need to get to that as fast as possible. And so, and if you don't have different, it's just an example of a layered approach, different vendors, different strategies, and sometimes one will miss it altogether, and you'll be fortunate that another one will get it. But that, I would say right now, like, if I had to tell you like where the top risks are, they're definitely in people's inboxes, because if you're gonna try to hack somebody's network, you're not going to go through the 10-foot brick wall, to try to come from the outside in and go through a firewall infrastructure, or like anything along those lines. You're going to just send a cast a wide net, send out a lot of emails, maybe hack somebody's email account, and then become a trusted sender, and then just kind of multiply from there. And if I had to say, that's where the most dangerous stuff is right now, is in the fake DocuSigns, the fake voicemails, and the threat actors. They're using AI to make their stuff now, and it's getting better and better. Where there was like misspellings and crummy logos and like just poor quality, the quality of the things that we're seeing is getting better and better every week that goes by. And we're seeing people do things that we've never seen before, where they will come at you on text message, and then they'll trick you into transitioning from text message into your email. So they'll do like these tricky things where they'll change mediums, and they'll go, like, they might even come from LinkedIn and get you there. And then we've seen, I mean, in the last decade, I've seen everything you can think of, like from fake, people being tricked to buy gift cards, wire transfers. I mean, like, just really smart people falling for things that you would just be absolutely astonished.
Yeah, and you've been in this for 25 years, Shawn. That's a long time. It's older than our host Wilbur. And so through that 25 years, I would think, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but I would say that education is a huge piece of a productive business, right? And how they can protect themselves is the education around knowing what those phishing emails or texts or phone calls and the deep fakes, as good as they're getting. If I get a text message that says I have an outstanding toll that needs paid in the state of Delaware, I've never been there. So no, I don't. But someone that lives there, or somebody that might not be, thinking about it, would click on that, and then all of a sudden you get them to change mediums, like you said, and they go from, so all of a sudden it's texting to emails to a phone call to, we actually had a guy on our team down in Miami, Florida, had him create through, I think it was through ChatGPT, it might have been Gemini, but created a podcast, much like we're doing, with just a quick 30-second voice clip. Had created a 45-minute podcast presentation. Now, it was like the AI versions of me, you, and Wilbur, but it was still our voices talking about cyber and doing different things. It was very, very intriguing, but at the same time frightening. So there's a lot of things that I think education, from our side, you can prevent these by knowing what a phishing email looks like, and 90% of the claims that we see, some numbers or reports it's even higher than 90%, but are coming from the lack of education. Shawn, have you seen that over the last 25 years?
Oh, absolutely. Like, 10 years ago, if you asked me if I would trust end users to do the right thing, or if I wanted to use them as part of my security strategy, I would have been like, absolutely not. Like, it's like you can never, they just never seem to want to do the right thing. But now you really can't, you absolutely have to invest in, like we use No before to do end user, to do testing and to do training, and it's tough, like in our clients we have the best success when management buys into the concepts of training, and like it has to come from the top. But if the top doesn't understand it, it's really strange. And it's like I said to you guys originally about like the human psychology part of working with new clients and people. Like, if you have owners that don't believe in like the security strategy, but then they send like mixed signals, like if I got people that like could have their account compromised, and then 2 years later, like they like forget completely all the pain that they felt from that, and we're like, yeah, you can't have a non-expiring password, you can't not participate in the training, you can't turn off No before for the entire company because because you think it's confusing people. We've seen a lot of these things that it's really, we're all in this together, and I think that's really the absolute most important point that you have to get through when you start to look for new clients. And like you just it just everything has to come from the top down. And unfortunately sometimes not every company is glued together as well as they should be, or not every company has the best culture. And some of our client relationships are way harder, not because the technology is harder, but because the company culture is problematic.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're helping clients in a way that you're reestablishing and building that company culture that's been broken, and they might not even realize it.
Well, we're trying.
You try to rebuild it and help them out, and we're doing the same here at techrug and trying to get not only the Shawns that we work with and the MSPs, but get the clients all in the same boat, rowing in the same direction. So that way, when something does happen, that hard conversation that they had to have with an employee about doing their security awareness training is all of a sudden a lot easier conversation than, hey, I have to let you go because we got hit with an attack. How, we didn't have the right cyber, it didn't cover the right things, we didn't have the right securities, and I have to pay out, $1.2 million, for the average claim, right? I'm losing all this money. That's a lot tougher conversation. So, it's from our perspective, your perspective, it's getting the client and their users, their employees, all working together and reestablishing, again, that cohesive unit that might have been broken, and we're just bringing that to the forefront.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the most, I mean, that's very important. But when we see the scenarios where we see what I would call like clashing aids, it's like they're telling us to go and then they're telling us to stop at the same time, or like they're telling us we want more security, but we don't want to pay more money. And it's just, like I feel like sometimes we have, like, as providers, or sort of any service provider develops a little bit of PTSD because you're so used to just being, you know, people don't call us or submit a ticket just to say have a nice day and you're so nice and pleasant to work. So you, as a service provider, it doesn't really matter the industry, anything where you're delivering service to humans, you do build up a little bit of your own biases sometimes. And you have to be really careful because you can sometimes find yourself in situations where you know that a client should be doing something or be changing a strategy, or they should be, and you're so beaten down from years and years of them just fighting them. It's like, so it is nice when you go into new clients where you reset that entire stance, and you can start from scratch and say, no, like this is the way it's going to be from day one, and this is how it needs to be, and you don't have to fight. So like there is a little bit of that does come when you work with people for a long time, because they only know you, everything's been amazing for a long time, and they're like, but why do we need this? Or why do, it's like, so sometimes it's tricky, and you have to take people kicking and screaming to move the baseline. Like when we go into new clients, we have everything everything we want there is there. And but when you have legacy clients, sometimes it takes a while. Like when new things come out and new, like right now with Gen AI, like a lot of our clients have really are just on scratching the surface. Like they're just not even, like they've done nothing, and like now they're interested in it. So I'm trying to take advantage of that and say, hey, listen, why don't you guys come to our office? Bring your key people. Why don't you come to our office for an afternoon? 90 minutes, whatever. Let's sit down together. Let's spend a half an hour. Let's just do some like defensive driving for like Gen AI stuff. Like, let's just talk about like the things you should really kind of get in order before you go down this path. And then you spend 60 minutes with them, after that, or as long as they want, it's fun to talk about. And then you can talk about the what ifs, like what can we do with this technology? And then we share some of the things that we're doing internally. Like we use it from everything from everything from marketing to HR, service delivery, future planning. Like it is the most unbelievable technology. Like, I mean, that we've seen, like, maybe ever. And it's like things that used to take hours, like, you want to audit all your client firewall configs in like you can build it in like Claude, and you can build you can export the configs from the firewalls into report format, or whatever, JSON with XML, whatever you want. It'll suck in all the configs. It'll give you a baseline, every single one of them, audit every single one of them in like under 5 minutes. And it's like, yeah, I mean, it's just
Incredible, how much technology has changed over the last 5 years, let alone 10, if not 25 years you've been doing this. Technology has changed so much so fast every single day that, now from the insurance side, we see a lot of the insurance companies aren't asking the right questions. They're almost archaic in some of the language that they use, and they ask, do you have MFA? And it's like, well, okay, where? That I advise, most people and all people really, that if they get vague, go specific, right? Or the opposite, if they're being very specific about one thing, go vague. They're not. At the end of the day, you see these claim denials, Shawn, that 40% of these cyber insurance claims that are coming in are being denied. 40%. So when you have these scenarios that clients are looking at the technology and they think it's expensive, well, the technology, a lot of what you're doing and what you're seeing, and you'd be, better to talk on this than I would, but you're seeing a lot of the insurance as a driving factor for a lot of what people take out and what people have in place or don't have in place, or if they, within a lot of the MSP's contracts, even it's written that they have to carry cyber. Okay, well, I go and I take out all these securities and I look at it, but then I go apply for cyber insurance and they don't even ask about an EDR or a SOC product, So from your perspective, is that what you're kind of seeing in general in the insurance, world? Is it the applications have been very almost vague in what they ask?
um I mean, some are more sophisticated than others. It's like anything. I mean, I think that one of the reasons why we've had the success that we've had over the years is that we're willing to go deeper. So it's like, we're willing to look, every vendor partnership, every technology we use, we try to, we standardize on everything. So we use the same firewalls everywhere, the same endpoint protection, the same SOC, the same penetration testing, like everything is the same everywhere. So it makes it really easy for us to build deep relationships with those vendors, like from an interpersonal perspective, but also to understand their technology and optimize it. Some I'm finding in the last couple of years, the questionnaires that come from insurance companies are definitely getting way more, way more detailed, and they're asking much more pointed questions about how you have things. Like in the past, they might have said, "Do you require 2FA on all Office 365 logins?" Which is like kind of a vague thing, because you can turn on 2FA and know 365, but then you can go way further to put in like conditional multi-factor and like control like the countries you're coming from, and like blocking sign-ins if users don't have MFA, and like, because there's just so many ways that an admin can make a mistake when someone is provisioned, So you really, like, every system you put in place, you really just need to have checks and balances, and you need to have multi-layer approaches that if you miss something with one thing, you're going to get it with something else. So that's what, like, every time we do something or every time we learn something the hard way, we try to, like, go back to the drawing board and say, okay, how can we pick this up with, how can we prevent this with better processes? How can we prevent this with, using, automation in our RMM? How can we retool the process altogether so it's just smoother and more streamlined? And like these, like when you do the same thing for a long time, you get really good. And when you, like, we're conditioned, because when bad things happen, it's very painful for us. So like, it's not only embarrassing, like from a human perspective, but it's never good when, and so we try really, really hard to try to have as many checks and balances on a system that we can, to make sure that things are not only are you detecting when things are happening, but also in scenarios where things are not happening. So that's like, with like backups, for example, when you audit backups, not only do you need to know like when they're failing, but there's scenarios that can happen where like someone can misconfigure something or forget to turn something back on, and the backups just aren't happening at all. So you need to have checks that show you the lack of existence, and that these are things you learn over the years that you. So like when and what's nice is like we use Veeam for all of our backup and like disaster recovery, and they have a fantastic product and fantastic reporting and alerting, and you can you can definitely see every single thing that's happening, on every front. And that's really nice, and that's the other advantage of standardizing on specific vendors solutions and tools, because I don't have to build all those checks and balances on 3 different backup solutions. I only have to worry about it on one.
Right. And there's a lot that, it goes into what you guys do, how you onboard, how you're separating yourselves through now. Okay, we've done what we needed to do. Now we're getting insurance at the end client's perspective. And okay, now an incident happens, and that's everybody's fear, and why they carry insurance, or why they should carry insurance, is that, you're going to have this claim. Inevitably, it's not, if this happens, if this goes on, but when you do, who can react and who can't? Over the last several years, from our perspective, we've certified our MSPs and helping them be able to be in that boat, that when something does happen, and it's a terrible time for everyone, right? That from your perspective on the IT side, it's embarrassing. Yes, there's work that you have to do. The client's perspective, they're trying to get back up and running. So how quickly can we do something like that? How quickly can we get a client back up and running? And I think a lot of insurance companies, right, they're going to have their own panel of vendors that don't want Shawn to do anything. And that's a huge problem, because your client expects you to be at a certain standard, that white glove service. They get that every day, day to day, all the time with Shawn. But now when something happens, Shawn can't do anything. It's the worst day of my professional career. So, and we've got to be careful with the limit that Shawn can do these certain things. So for us, and what we've tried to do is certify you. We have Lloyd's of London back your incident response plan. You're talking about a marketing tool, right? But we go in and we certify you. So now you have this, we call it our dual claims coverage, where your cyber and E&O policy in our program and your client's cyber policy in our program, the two are working in tandem, where up until we started it, insurance is, let's play the blame game. It's, oh no, that's Shawn's problem, or that's the client's problem, and you're caught in the middle, the client's caught in the middle, and it takes a tremendous amount of time to get back up and running. Again, depending on what report you look at, it's 22 days, Shawn. Would any of your clients want to be down 22 days? I mean, it's ridiculous that that's become the standard. And what we see, and you can look at it on, net diligence reports and different things like that. But Shawn, what do you see from your side or hear about in the MSP channel? Been around for 25 years. You're going to have some insight as to, hey, I've heard about this through my peer groups, and they dealt with this scenario. Now that my buddy's got to take Klonopin to sleep at night. What do you see? What goes through your mind when a claim happens? What are you thinking about? or have you heard that other people are thinking about when something like this that's catastrophic does happen?
I mean, there's definitely a lot of high profile things that we see all the time. I mean, there was just one recently with Stryker Medical, and I mean that one definitely gets everybody's attention, especially if you're using, if you're a Microsoft Shop and you're using their endpoint, endpoint management tools, and it's it's something that you really have to, it highlights like controls and making sure that like you have different designations on accounts. And in their case, it looked like someone may have uh, you know, had administrative level privileges on their regular account that they were using to browse the internet and to, I mean, I don't have the final report on it, or I didn't see like but if I had to guess, it's something along those lines. But or maybe they had everything configured perfectly. And I mean, when you're going against nation state level attackers that have unlimited budgets essentially to wage warfare. I've always said, in the next wars, who's going to fire a bullet or a missile when you can turn somebody's power off, or you can forcibly wipe every single computer in their fleet, whether they, and using their tools. I mean, you're just using their tools against them. No malware or bad software or anything. And I mean, it's a tough time right now. It's just like I say, I think, Justin, your your leader, he likes to say he swims with sharks and crocodiles every day. That's his, I steal that from him all the time. And it really is the truth. I mean, it's definitely, the only way I can sleep at night is knowing that we're trying as hard as we can and we're not letting people do things that could hurt us. And, we give it a good fight, but, nothing is impenetrable. If someone wants access to something, they're going to get it. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. And, if we can put as many layers in as we can and try to block them on one of those layers of Swiss cheese, that's the best that we can do. And that mentality and strategy has worked well for us over the years, and it continues to work well for us. And I feel, like I said before, when I talk to prospective clients, like I've never been more comfortable with what we're doing and our ability to share risk and mitigate risk for our clients and potential clients. And it's not getting any easier. And now you have Gen AI tools that are moving at a pace that no one has ever seen before, with promises of incredible, cyber capability to either find threats. It's like you just things are you just don't know what will happen in the future. It's like it's not moving like quarter by quarter or year by year. You're talking like it's like week by week, day by day, and then the next thing you know, it's like, wow, it can do this or it can do that, or the bad guy, we're going to use it. Anthropic has that new model Mythos. Am I saying that right? And they're saying that like they had to basically give it in private preview to all the major software companies first, because if they had just put it out in the open, it would have been like a bloodbath. Because it would affect, it can find 0-day vulnerabilities at like breakneck speed. So it's like it's you just don't. So it's like it's incredible. So on one side, there's a lot of good that can come out of it, and the bad guys can use it to do all sorts of bad stuff. But then it gets to the point where you're like, okay, if it gets so good and there's just no more 0-day vulnerabilities, then like, why do you need security software? Why do you need a SOC? Why do you, it's like I have no idea where this is going to go. It's like we're all just kind of like we're all on this wild ride together, and that's it's all you just got to hook in and hold on. And
Exactly. It's what it's going to be, man. AI is, hopefully going to make our lives easier, but at the same time could make the lives of those hackers and bad actors, their lives a lot easier. That, I don't think that our industries are going anywhere, man. I've seen the numbers that by, it was 2030 that the cyber marketplace, right, is going to double and triple. We're about 15 billion right now. It's going to jump up to, I think, 15 trillion even, and it's going to jump up to 30. So it's just going to continue to get worse. You're going to continue to see, these zero-day attacks. You're going to see a lot of AI being able to do it and create companies that use bots to then go and attack other companies. And then you try to trace it back, and it's like, well, wait, it was an AI created company that used AI to create the company. So now it's all a shell game, and it's like, who's responsible for this? And it's impossible to figure out. And by the time you do, that person's gone. They don't even exist anymore. You can't find them. So, you got to be careful and protect yourself. And the best way to do it is have the right securities. But, that's 99% of how you can risk manage your company. The last line of defense is insurance and having the right insurance policy. There's attorneys out there. You don't just go to an attorney, right? You would say, "Oh, I'm going through a divorce. I need a divorce attorney. Or I need a business attorney. I got to go to a business attorney." Insurance, I think, has got to be the same way. And if you're working with a general agent, no knock to the general agents, but you're good at the homes and autos and bakeries, but the cyber, the tech, the cyber marketplace, you got to work with an expert. And if you're not, you can find out, like you said, people have to find out the hard way. And that's not a boat that anybody wants to be in, because now you've created headaches for everyone. So, Shawn, I want to get your final thoughts, man. We've been on here for a while. You've got 25 years of fantastic experience. You have anything left, that you can share with those that are watching this today, and what they can maybe do to help themselves going forward in 2026, 2027, or even what your future thoughts might be on where we're headed in this industry?
Oh boy. Well, I think that, I'll leave you with like a human thought. It's like more psychological than even technological. It's like with all these wonderful technologies, it creates all these possibilities and you get so excited about it. But I think, you with all these new technologies and the capability to just build everything on the fly and vibe code things, like I think it could create a lot of anxiety in people. It's like, because you're like, I could do this, I could do that, I could do, and I think that, at least for me, like I've been through that. Like, you're like, oh my God, like, like one day you're doing this, one day. And I think you just kind of, if the best advice is like, it's really like that concept of like just slow and steady wins the race. It's like we're all here for a long time. We got a long runway ahead of us. Let's just take it nice and easy. Don't do anything too crazy. Just pace yourself. Like it's just because, you really, you can make yourself pretty you really can become you can create a lot of anxiety as a business, as a business owner myself, because you can't help yourself. You get so excited, like it's like, so that would be it.
Well, Shawn, we appreciate you. Good guy, good client for the last decade, or so. It's been 10 plus years you've been working with us and working with Justin and the rest of our team, and we appreciate your partnership and how we can continue to not only help MSPs like yourself, but continue to just look out for the marketplace. We've got to make sure that we continue, whether it's on the technical side, what you're doing and partner with you, or the insurance side on our side as the insurance experts, chase infinity. We're never going to catch it, but we're going to be right behind it. If we can do that every year and slow and steady, right? Eventually, when we get down this never-ending runway and something happens and there's a crash, right? That now we can, we're not talking about a whole house fire. It's a one-bedroom fire. We're not talking about an $800,000 claim. We're talking about an $80,000 claim. So having the right partnerships, having the right people, having the right service, having the right security, having the right insurance, all very, very important, very crucial to, I think, the success of businesses going forward. So, Shawn, we appreciate you, my man. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for
And
having me.
it's always good talking to you.